Mark Brooks is here all the way from Dubai. And Mark is known as an internationally acclaimed consultant with his finger on the pulse of on the online dating business world, which is different from, I would think, from the regular business, regular dating world that we're all accustomed to. Mark, can you explain, before we get into questions and all that, can you explain what it is that you do and why you have created this niche business for the business world, for the dating world? It's harder, I would think, to be in the dating world and be in business.
Well, I came from the semiconductor test equipment world, which was a little up and down. I figured, what are the businesses that don't go down in a downturn? And love and chocolate are very good, actually, in that respect.
I love that expression. Love and chocolate.
Those are the two that seem to survive. Semiconductor capital test equipment, bad idea, as I discovered in the year 2000. So I've been in the internet dating business for 20 years, and I've had a few competitors over the years, but I seem to be the last man standing.
Now, why is that? Why have you survived and others haven't?
I don't do project work. I do retainer-based work only. And so we work for a few companies, and we're a competitive advantage for them. I've recruited a team of people from the dating industry over the years. As they leave the industry, I stay in contact with them, and I pick off the ones that I think are excellent. And that's what makes my team up. We've got 30 people made up of people that have left the industry. I've got 600 people in my database that have actually left the industry at this stage. And so I recruit from that pool. And that's our strength, really.
Now, COVID-19 turned our world, not just dating, but everything upside down. Not only that, we've had the most toxic political environment in the history of America. And, Black Lives Matter, the Me Too movement. I'm afraid to go on it. I mean, I'm married, but if I was single, I would be afraid to go on a date because I would be afraid to speak freely. How has that affected the way that you do business?
That's interesting. I think we have polarized, really. We've seen more polarization in terms of the communications patterns on dating apps. People are choosing things that they didn't used to choose
Like,
as showstoppers.
give an example.
Trump is the great polarizer. I was like, you're pro-Trump or you're not, and you're not going to date someone really that's not pro-Trump if you're pro-Trump. So that was one of the clear new lines of delineation. So we have these things called showstoppers. A good example of a showstopper is want to get married. If you really don't want to get married, that's, although some people do kind of not clearly know that they want to get married.
But
they
even
don't want to say that.
even my wife said to me, look, I want to get married and have kids. And she asked me that, we were at a restaurant having a glass of wine. I said, yeah, I want to get married, but can I finish my wine first?
That's great. Exactly. Yeah.
I want to have kids.
I think that says it all. That's very wise.
Come on.
I love that. That's the long and the short of it.
Why are we
guys will lie about wanting a long-term relationship, and women will lie about wanting a short-term one. That's a saying, in the industry.
There's a lot of lying, isn't there, Mark?
Fibbing. And people fib to themselves as much as they do to someone else.
Lying is too harsh. Fibbing is a good word.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, people don't really know what they want until they see it, until they spend time with it, and that's really the definition of love, wanting to spend time with someone.
Are you married?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
You have
many
kids?
years. 3 kids. Yeah. 6, 11, and 12, 3 girls.
So you practice what you preach.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, a good long-term relationship will help, we'll be together in many years' time. And that's what I want for everyone, really. It's like have a good relationship, but also have some of the tools to help you stay in those relationships. And I think that's what the dating industry can really deliver on long term. Once we really get to know people, is help them actually not only get it together, but keep it together. And that's what drives me in this industry. That's why I'm in 20 years plus and in it for another 20 at least.
Now, Mark and I, just so the viewers know and our other panelists know, Mark and I talked about some questions that we want our panelists to also address. And I actually like all of them, but there's a couple that stood out to me. But the first question, I spoke to a few friends of mine, and I was really kind of taken aback by what they think of Tinder. They call it the place to go to fuck. I mean, they say that Tinder is the place you go to get laid. And I was, I was really surprised that 2 or 3 people had the same reaction, and they had a very blunt description of it. You asked
I lost you for a second.
You're still there because the phone came.
Yeah.
All right. So the question you ask is Tinder really good or is it poison for the psyche of American singles? And I think that's a fantastic question now that I really understand what Tinder is. And I'm curious how our panelists will react to what your response to that question would be.
So I think Tinder means fire. And so it can't ever escape its position as a more casual product. I think there was a time when Match had bought Tinder and they didn't really want to pay heed to its position. And now, since they bought Hinge, and Hinge is positioned as the app designed to be deleted, i.e. a long-term relationship-based app, they've now been okay with Tinder being a more casual product. Because I don't think it'll ever escape that position in the market. And that's okay, because some people, especially people in their 20s, or people who are just out of a relationship, don't necessarily want to be explicit about wanting another relationship, another long-term relationship. And so there's a position in the market to discover yourself and play the field a bit. And there's lots of people who've had long-term relationships off Tinder, but you don't go on Tinder with that intent explicitly. You're not going to go on a date on Tinder and say, I'm here because I want to get married.
You're on Tinder, I'm here because I want to have sex.
That's actually a very good place to start a relationship. And that element of compatibility is absolutely key.
Tinder
why not? Why not?
So it's not the fuck app. So I want to know, all right, the panelists have heard your response. Now I want to hear what they have to say to this question, what they think of Tinder. Because Tinder, I found really, I was really surprised at how blunt the responses were for people that I was asking about this. Because I haven't been on dating sites in 30 years. So, hearing it from my friends and hearing it from you, the expert, it's a very interesting dichotomy. All right, so the next question you asked is, if you could wave a magic wand and have dating apps conjure up your perfect dating app, what would it look like? I would like to know what you think that perfect dating app would look like, and then we'll get our panelists to comment.
So I think of perfection rather like an economist thinks of perfection, and that is, what is the extreme scenario? So let me paint a picture of what the future holds in, say, 20, 30 years, and what I live for, really, which might sound a little creepy, but I think that the dating industry is in the perfect position to not only help people get it together, but keep it together. And I think we're leaving about 90% of our value on the table because we're not actually touching on that other part at all at this stage. Mm-hmm. And let me explain what I mean. An app that gets to know you well enough to find you a fantastic match, like really fantastic, highly compatible match based on your behaviors, not what you're saying, but on what you're doing, your behaviors in the moment, your preferences in the moment, who you are right now. That app that can really get to know you across various contexts is the one that can provide you the best match.
Now, the one that provides you the best match is also taking in a lot of data. And
exactly.
That's what makes me worry, because people are so sensitive about having all their information. But in this case, it's the opposite, because without that information, the app, the algorithms can't figure out what the best match would be. You agree?
The payoff is high enough that people will eventually trust an app that is to be trusted. And that's why I think the incumbents that grow to scale and prove that they are to be trusted are the ones that will win ultimately this great race of love on the planet. And the one that's the dating app that can get that trust to the level that they can get that kind of behavioral data that can then actually have visibility on what really compatibility is over the long term. The ones that can actually use AI over, say, a 5-year period to see who's kept it together and what that looks like, and all the things that might not have really been thought of that go into making compatibility. I think that app wins, and then they can really win and take all, because the other side of the coin is helping people in those relationships so that they keep it going. Relationships does take a skill. It takes nudging. It takes coaching in some cases. And women will actually get coaching. Guys will generally not want coaching, but they'll take a nudge. And I think an app is in a position to nudge and notify people so that they can catch the potential failure mode for that relationship and make a better, happier relationship. People need help. They don't realize it, especially right now because with noses in phones, and that's not helping. We're suffering for that, I think. But the upside of it is that we are in a position to get more information and help people more. And I think that's where, yes, it gets very creepy, but there will be an incumbent that gets the level of trust that they can deliver better on that 10%, which is the getting it together, and then really reap the rewards of helping people over the next 10 years in that relationship. And that is a really cool scenario.
You know what is creepy to me? You're going to end up trusting your dating app more than you're going to trust your partner.
Good point. Interesting point.
That's a
Yeah.
little scary to me. You know, it's a little scary. The third
Yeah.
question, this is one that I
Good
really,
point.
really like. It's who should decide on what compatibility is? Dating apps or scientists, or should everyone be able to design in their own ideal compatibility systems to their favorite dating app? That is a very good question, and it really becomes a difficult decision on, you think how many times have you heard you think you've met Mr. Right or Miss Right, and it ends up being a disaster? What's the answer to this question? What do you think is the most likely answer to this question?
At the end of the day, the right answer is we don't really know. And then the next question is how do we get there? How do we get to know? And that is where AI really kicks in. Because the answer is still we don't really know until we observe. And we have to observe millions of people. And so let me paint a picture because there's a company that's been kind of been active in dating now that I think most of the dating industry have disregarded, and that's Facebook, right? They've got Facebook dating app. They are in an interesting position because they have more visibility on success than any other dating app in history. When someone goes on a dating app and they're successful, they delete the app. When they also go on a dating app and they're very unsuccessful, they delete the dating app. How do we know which means
Mm.
success? How do we correlate success with all those attributes along the way, along that journey? I mean, we don't know is the end result, but Facebook does because they have visibility on when a relationship is formed, for how long, with whom, whether it ends in divorce, whether it ends in kids. So what is success? They can attribute various forms of success to their app. They have full visibility, and they can also see the correlations with various factors that we might never have dreamed of. I actually really like the way Match does compatibility. The way Match does compatibility is they say, we don't really know, but we know people like you, and we know who they're having second conversations with. So we will match you with the people that are having second conversations with people like you.
But the thing that I have to interrupt, because the thing that you're not talking about is people lie. There's lots of false information when they give their critique of who they are, and they lie about themselves, their looks, their careers, and there are a lot of strange people on these dating apps. So how do you get rid of that? How do you ensure, if you, especially in the business community, that the people that are doing this, that are participating in this, are up and up and the real deal?
So people are very aspirational when they get on a dating app. If they're 5'10 3/4" like me, I'm going to tend to want to sound 6 foot because I know that women are going to search for six
So
footers.
we
It's a fib.
exaggerate by nature.
We fib. We exaggerate. Exactly. Yeah. But look, it's a marketplace, and that marketplace, there are certain drivers of that marketplace that programmers have laid out that are rather unfair.
Our panelists are going to have a lot to say about this.
Right.
Because on
I
this
mean,
show, we have a matchmaker, we have a mental health expert, we have three people also running dating apps, we have a journalist who's an observer and a reporter. They're going to really chime in. But it's great that we're talking about this out in the open, because I think it's important for anybody watching today's show. I think, look, there's a lot of lonely hearts out there, especially since we've been isolated by, COVID-19. We can't go to our restaurants like we always do. The parties are out. You can't even kiss each other on the cheek. So, what's the alternative? How are we going to move forward and find the person? So the people that are. I have a friend of mine who's a major author, and he confessed to me that he has back where he lives, he has a girlfriend, but when he came to the States, he was like, this is the loneliest experience he's ever had. And he doesn't have it's because he doesn't have the normal outlets that he normally goes to. Okay, now here's the question, and this is a long question, and our panel I know is going to have some comments to make. This was my favorite question of all of them. Imagine, if you will, in the not too distant future, the phone will go away and people will have augmented reality glasses with amazing voice recognition. They will walk down the street and AI will help decide on people who are a great match for them. They will be able to swipe on people as they encounter them, and the AI will identify people they think are excellent matches based on deep knowledge of that person's behavior. Like you said, just how badly does this vision freak you out? Because it freaks me out. I don't know if I agree that we'll have augmented glasses. I don't know what it might be, but you asked the question, can you live in this new internet dating world in peace? And do you believe that this is the inevitable future? I don't agree with augmented glasses. They've already tried to do it. I think that not everybody wants to wear glasses, but who knows what that will evolve to. But I think it's a great question, and we are definitely headed into more AI usage. We are definitely headed into an augmented reality, and something like COVID, where we're forced to stay indoors and not have contact with people, probably is pushing that little wheel a little faster than it's been in the past. Your comments?
I think ultimately that's at least 5 years out. The phone will inevitably go away, and I'd urge you to
be replaced with glasses.
Try out Microsoft's HoloLens. Go into a Microsoft store and just try that out, and it will rock your world. It changed my world. I was a non-believer, but ultimately, I think the phone and texting will be very antiquated within the 5-year time frame. It's going to be weird to have to tap on a keyboard. We're not too far away with voice recognition now. The thing is, having to carry a phone is a rather inhuman thing. There are better ways to get information, and I think the technology is not too far away now. I think in 5 years' time, we'll be on the cusp of AR becoming normal, and that's quite a long time. 5 years out is long. I mean, we'll be used to it by then, and then we'll be used to kind of sharing a bit more information with brands that we truly trust, that have really earned our trust. And only then, I think, can dating apps make that jump to AR. Now, the other side of the coin is, I think there are some people going to be quite crippled by this. It's a crippling experience for a true introvert to be in that kind of world. I wonder how that's going to, and I think that's where the psychologist on your panel is going to have great input.
Oh, I'm sure our mental health expert is going to have a lot to say about all of this. I mean, you're a family man. You have kids. Would you want your kids using these products? Or would you want them to do it the old-fashioned way and meet somebody like the way we've done it for generations?
I think the level of opt-in for permission is going to change. We're going to have a lot more control, and it's almost we're going to elect for certain services. And when you're single and you want to meet someone who's truly compatible, you'll opt into this. And
so you have no problem with your kids using it if that's the choice they make.
I want them to meet the best possible person.
And you think they can find that best possible person on a dating app?
Well, absolutely. Yes. Okay. I mean, I actually didn't meet my wife on a dating app, funny enough. We met at a party.
Well, there goes. It's out the window now. How did you meet?
And I wonder if it would have matched us. I mean, in some ways, we've got things which are polar opposite, but it doesn't matter. Opposites attract. And that's the most difficult thing to match on, actually. Some things are very important, like values, the way we communicate. I mean, we don't escalate. We don't escalate arguments. The only thing we argue about is interior design.
Do you think it's safe? Most important question, probably.
I think it will be safer. Safer is the world we shoot for. Yes, we can't be ultimately entirely safe because people are not entirely safe, but we can be significantly safer. And that's a very big question. And that's always a bit unfair when I see apps have been like somebody was murdered on Tinder. It's like, well, no, actually they were murdered in the real world, and it's a dying, terrible shame. We could have done better, perhaps, and we should do better. But at the end of the day, is someone safer to meet in a bar, or are they safer to meet on a dating app? And I would say they're far safer to meet on a dating app, because we can hunt people down. Ultimately, if someone goes on a dating app with illicit intent, bad intent, they want to hurt someone, we do have some means to trace them. Whereas in that bar, it's far less likely.
Mark, thank you for your time today. This was pretty amazing.
Thank
You
you.
really gave me a whole different twist on it. My wife is in the background watching as well and listening, so she's been chiming in, and I think that you really have set the tone. And I'm going to be very, very curious how our panel reacts to your comments and to your questions. But this is going to open Pandora's box, I'm sure. But it'll be a really interesting discussion. Thank you for calling me all the way from Dubai, Mark Brooks, the expert on international dating and the business world. Thank you so much for your time. And to be continued. I'll be back in touch.
Great. Thank you, Jesse.
All right, man. Thanks, man.
Thanks,
bye.